Hello everyone, I'm Jessica Tost. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Texas at Austin, and welcome to Module 2 of the NCLII curriculum. This module focuses on general outcome measurement and the use of GOMs to intensify intervention. Before you delve into the content, I'm going to go over this in this video three different things. I'm going to start by talking about the structure of the trainings and the modules that you're going to see over the course of the year. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about general outcome measurement and the terminology you're going to see used in this module. And then I'm going to end off by going over the guiding questions for Module 2 to get you prepared for the next month. So to start off, I'm going to talk about the modules that you'll see throughout the year. As you know, there are 6 of them. The first module, which you've already completed, was really an introduction to the NCLII, to intensive intervention, and really talking about why intensive intervention is so important for our students with persistent difficulties in either academics or behavior. So the next 4 modules are going to talk about different approaches we can use to inform the way we intensify and individualize intervention. In Module 2, as I said, we're going to focus on general outcome measurement or curriculum-based measurement as a way to intensify intervention. In Module 3, you'll talk about mastery measurement and using that data to help us intensify and make important decisions about intervention. And in Module 4, you'll be introduced to single case design as another approach to intensify and adapt the way we provide our interventions. Finally, in Module 5, we'll talk about a slightly different approach. So we'll talk about using alternate approaches. So not necessarily teachers using data to make decisions about intervention, but thinking through how individual student characteristics or characteristics of a group of students can help us inform the interventions that we design. So you'll be introduced, for example, to the effectiveness of a particular treatment based on students' individual skill level or their gender, or their self-regulation skills. These are called moderators, and in that module you'll talk more about the terms moderator, aptitude by treatment interactions, and think more about how groups can differ and how we can change our intervention approaches. These 4 modules are meant to give you a broad introduction to the various approaches we use in both our research and our practice, and to give you a strong foundation for understanding the work taking place to support both the academic and the behavioral needs of special education students. This year's curriculum will end with Module 6, and in Module 6 you'll spend time thinking about the various approaches you were introduced to in Modules 2 through 5. You'll think about the similarities and differences of those different approaches. You'll consider ways that we might combine those approaches and identify the next steps that researchers can take to expand our understanding of intensive intervention. So now we're ready to dive into the content for Module 2. So the first question is, what is general outcome measurement, or GOM? So GOM is a form of classroom-based assessment, and it provides teachers with data to make instructional decisions. The most commonly used form of GOM is curriculum-based measurement, or CBM, and this is what we're going to focus on in this module. To state this another way, GOM is really an umbrella term, and it's an umbrella term for classroom assessment used for the purpose of decision making. So how children are progressing on grade level, academic, and behavioral expectations. Specifically, we're going to operationalize this to mean data that are collected through CBM. So for those of you who might be new to this, I'm going to spend a couple of seconds talking about what CBM is. CBM uses assessment materials that will look very similar to other materials seen in the classroom. The tasks are usually timed so that we can determine a level of performance, for example, based on the number of correct or incorrect responses that a student gives per minute. CBM really evolved originally from the work of Stan Dino and Phyllis Merkin at the Minnesota Institute for Research on Learning Disabilities. It emerged in the late 70s when they were developing a special education intervention program that would utilize data to help teachers make decisions about how to modify their instructional programs and individualize instruction for students. CBM was introduced as a way to gather this data through standardized procedures. CBM can be used to make various decisions. For example, we can use this data to make screening decisions, which students need support and which students do not. In this module, we're really focusing on the use of the data gathered through CBM to make progress monitoring and diagnostic decisions. So to evaluate whether a student is responding to the intervention that we're providing to them, and to gain insight about how we can strengthen the program for students who are not making adequate progress. In this module, we will also introduce data-based individualization, or DBI. And we're going to talk about DBI as one clearly defined model of how we can use CBM to make these types of decisions about intensification. DBI is specifically designed to address the needs of students with persistent difficulties. It integrates the use of ongoing progress monitoring data to estimate students' response to validated intervention programs and determine the adjustments that need to be made to those programs in order to better meet students' individual needs. On this slide that will appear on the screen right now, you'll see the DBI model as proposed by the National Center on Intensive Intervention. Your readings in this module will walk you through the DBI process in reading and mathematics and introduce you to some thoughts about how this can be implemented to meet students' behavioral needs. If you look at the model as presented on the screen, you'll see that we always begin with what's happening in the intervention program. Throughout the intervention, we are consistently progress monitoring. In this case, we're talking about using CBMs to collect that progress monitoring data. From that data, we make decisions about whether or not students are responsive or non-responsive to our interventions. If students are non-responsive to the intervention, we make diagnostic assessment decisions. So we look at the data that's been collected, and we use that data to make adaptations to meet students' individual needs. When we make adaptations to our intervention, we continue to collect progress monitoring data in order to see whether or not students were responsive. In component 4 of this module, you'll also get a tour of the NCLI website and be introduced to various CBMs that are available, including those that are commercially available and often used by the schools that we work with. So now, it's time to dive into module 2. So, what should you expect over the next month? Well, you should expect that Module 2 will take approximately 12 hours total. We'll address seven guiding questions in Module 2, and you can read them here. The first guiding question, what is general outcome measurement? How does it differ from other forms of classroom assessment, such as mastery measurement? 2, what are the conditions under which the use of CBM to guide instructional planning, data-based decision-making, appears to be more or less effective? 3, what are core features of approaches to intensive intervention that use CBM? 4, how do we define general outcome measurement for behavior? What are some considerations for CBM in academics versus behavior? 5, what protocols should be considered when using DBI in reading and mathematics? 6, what are the challenges of using CBM for students with intellectual disability? And finally, the last question, even though CBM is a validated practice, can you imagine any pushback a teacher might have to using it? If so, what will you want to learn in this module to help teachers understand the importance of using CBM to guide instruction? So that's a lot to think about. Our hope is that by the end of Module 2, you'll have a clear understanding of CBM, of how to use this type of data to intensify and individualize intervention, of what the DBI process looks like, and you'll also start thinking through how you would express these important messages to teachers and help them implement these practices in their classrooms. We continue to learn a lot about intensive intervention, so we fully expect that you'll end this module with additional thoughts or questions. That's great. We encourage you to take notes, engage in discussion with other NCLI scholars and faculty members, and always feel free to post your thoughts on the discussion board for this module. So during Module 2, please feel free to send me an email directly if you have any questions about the content. You'll see me again when we get to Component 5, when I explain the instructions for your synchronous activity for this module. And other than that, we really look forward to interacting with you over the next month. Have fun exploring CBM. Bye.